Daf Kuf Dalet Amud Aleph will begin Daf Kuf Gimel Amud Beis at the end of the last line on the Amud. We learned previously that Rava, when he made Havdalah, he said the nusach of the Havdalah, he said Amad ben Kadosh l'chol ben Yisrael ben Or l'choshech ben Yisrael Amen ben Yem Shil Shesh Mei Amas. So he said this lengthy Havdalah. So he was asked, why did you, Yaakov Baran asked him, why did you say such a lengthy Havdalah? Rava explained, he said that he holds like Rav Elazar, and who said in the name of Voshia, that when he says Havdalas, the different types of separations that the Rebbeinu Shalom made, you should not do less than 3, and you should not do more than 7. But Al Kopanim, you should not do only 1, so you should do at least 3. So that's why he did this lengthy nusach of Havdalah. Amrei Rav Yaakov Bar said to him, well, if that's the case, Hamar loy klasa, Amar v'loy sheva Amar. Well, you didn't do 3, you didn't do 7, you did 4. So the way Tosfos explains it is that when it says not less than 3, not more than 7, it doesn't mean between 3 and 7. It means either 3 or 7. So his question was that you didn't do 3 or you didn't do 7, you did 4. Amrei Rava said to him, Ibra, the mind in truth, that is not considered one of the Havdalas. That is me'ena chasima. That is, as we'll see, that when you have a lengthy bracha, a bracha that is a long form bracha, so it has a beginning, it has a middle, and has the end. At the end of the middle section, before you do the chasima, before you do the final chasima of the bracha, you conclude the middle section with something that is me'ain, that is discussing the same idea, that conveys the same idea as the chasima itself. So he said that that is not considered to be a separate Havdalah. That is something that which is me'ain chasima. It's similar to the conclusion, and therefore it's not in the list of the Havdalah. So really what I said was 3 separations. The last one was the me'ain chasima. V'amar Yehuda Shmuel, he says, Amavdol tzarich sheyemer me'ain chasima samach l'chasima. He says that you have to say the bracha me'ain chasima samach l'chasima. So that's what I did. But B'sei Amra and Badisa, they said me'ain psichasan samach l'chasima. They said also that before you start the chasima, the conclusion of the middle section also has to have somewhat of a summary, but they say it's me'ain psicha. It's something similar to the opening statement, to the opening bracha. That's what has to be recited at the end of the middle section. My beinayu, where do we see that there is a nafkamina between the two? There's a difference. If Yontav falls out on Motzei Shabbos, so you make Havdalah. You're making Havdalah between Shabbos and Yontav. The Chasima ben Kodesh l'Kodesh. Now there the bracha is, the Chasima is not ben Kodesh l'Chol. You say Amavdol ben Kodesh l'Kodesh, between Shabbos and between Yontav. So therefore, the one that says that you have to do something similar to the opening statement, samach to the chasima before the conclusion, so you don't have to mention this separation between Kedusha Shabbos and Yontav. You're starting off the bracha Hamadl ben Kodesh l'Chol. So therefore, if you say the me'ain psicha, you don't have to add in a extra mention at the end of the middle section of a separation between Shabbos and Yontav. Even though the chasima, the bracha itself, is ben kodesh l'kodesh, between Shabbos and Yontav, ben kodesh l'kodesh, but according to them, you don't have to mention something similar to the chasima before the chasima. So it's sufficient to mention a mavdul ben kodesh l'chol, which is the way you started. But but according to the ones who say, you need something similar to the chasima, similar to the conclusion at the end of the middle section. So you have to mention at the end of the middle section, Ben Kedusha Shabbos, the Kedushas Yontav Ivdalta, the separation, the idea that there's a separation between Shabbos and Yontav. And therefore that has to be added in, and that's L'maisa, the nusach of the bracha that we do have, that we say Ben Kedusha Shabbos, the Kedushas Yontav Ivdalta, Ivdalta V'Kedashta. So we mention that, and then we say the Chasima Ben Kodesh L'Kodesh. Al Kol Panim, what Rava said is that really I mentioned three separations in the bracha of Havdalah. The last one that I mentioned is Ben Yom Shili Sheish Zemei Amasa, is because since the Havdalah is, the Chasima is Amad Ben Kodesh L'Chol, I have to convey that idea at the end of the middle section before I start the bracha of the Chasima. That has to be mentioned. But really the Havdalahs themselves are only three. Gufa Amar Belazam Rav Yeshia Apeichas Le'Yichas Mishalosh. Someone who says the separation, the different adults should not say less than three. The one who adds should not add more than 7, because these are the separations that we find in the Torah, and we shouldn't mention more Havdolahs than the Torah mentions. Meisel asks you a question. Aimer Havdolahs v'Motzei Shabbos. On a Motzei Shabbos we say Havdalah. Motzei Yom Tovim, and on the conclusion of Yom Tov, Motzei Yom Tovim. Or Motzei Yom Kippur and Yom Kippur, Motzei Shabbos Yom Tov. And if Yom Tov falls out on Sunday on Motzei Shabbos, you make Havdalah between Motzei Shabbos and Yom Tov. Or Motzei Yom Tov l'Chol Shemayim, and between the first days of Yom Tov and Chol Hamoed. Avaloi Motzei Yom Tov l'Shabbos, but not Motzei Yom Tov l'Shabbos. Meaning, as the Rashbam explains, the Havdalah is made to separate from something with a higher Kedusha and something which is lesser. So, typical Havdalah, Shabbos has Kedusha to Yom Chol. We make a Havdalah, a separation between that which is Kodesh and that which is Chol. And in so too on other things, even Shabbos and Yom Tov, from a higher Kedusha Shabbos, between a lesser Kedushas of Yom Tov. But Lo Motzei Yom Tov l'Shabbos, but not on Motzei Yom Tov to Shabbos. So if Yom Tov falls out on Friday, there's no Havdalah, because Shabbos is a greater Kedusha. We only make the Havdalah from a greater Kedusha going into a day with lesser Kedusha, but not from a lesser Kedusha to a higher Kedusha. Then the Brisa continues, Haragel Oimer Harba, one who knows the Psukim and is baki with the Psukim that are mentioned in the Torah, he says more Havdalah. So Shein Haragel Oimer Achas, but the one who's not, he only says one. So you see over here that only one is necessary. You don't need a minimum of 3. Even one is enough. More answers, Tanoi. It's a machlekes Tanoi. Damar Rav Yochanan Banan Shel Kedushin Oimer Achas. The Tana who is called Banan Shel Kedushin, the son of the Zora Kodesh, the sons of the Holy One, he says you only make one Havdalah. But that's not the minig. The minig of the people are to make 3. So that's the minig. Ma'iniu Banan Shel Kedoshim. Who is the Tana that's called Banan Shel Kedoshim, the son of the Holy Ones? That's Rav Menachem Bar Simoy. Why was he called that? Because the Lo Yistakel B'tzur to the Zuzah, on a coin which had an image engraven on the coin. He didn't even look at that image. So as the way Tosfos explains is that there's an issur to look at idols. So there's a issur to look at a Avodah Zarah, to look at idols. Now the image that are on the coin isn't made for an Avodah Zarah per se. But he was so makbid to be marking himself from that he did not even look at the image that were graven on coins. That's the way Tosfos and Shabbos explains it. Sholch Rav Shmuel Bar Idi Hananya Ach Yomer Achas. He sent the following message that Hananya, his brother, said you only make one Havdalah, one separation, but that's not the halacha. The halacha is no, you make, as we said, Nogam Sholish with 3. Amar Rav Yeshua ben Levi Amav L'Sora Sheyemer in Havdalas Amur's B'Torah. He says in Havdalah, you say the Havdalas, the Havdalas that we find that are similar to the Havdalas that we find that are mentioned in the Torah. Meisel asks you, Kasha, Seder Havdolas, hey, what's the order of Havdolas that you make an Havdolah? Oimer, Mavdol ben Kodesh L'chol. You say, Mavdol ben Kodesh L'chol. And Ben Or L'chosh, Ben Yisrael Amim, Ben Yemashvili, Shesh Yisamei Amas, Ben Tomei L'Tor, Ben Hayam L'Charova, Ben that which is Tomei and which is Tor, and between the Yam, the sea, and the Charova, the dry land. Ben Mayim Al Yenu, the Mayim Al Tachtainim, that Hashem separate between the upper waters and the lower waters. Ben Kahan L'Levim Yisrael, there's a separation between in Kahan L'Levim Yisrael, the Chaysim B'Seder Bereshis, and the Chasima he makes the bracha he makes a bracha Baruch Atah Hashem Seder Bereshis, who organizes the creation. V'acher Ma'ameh B'Yotzer Bereshis, that he's Yotzer Bereshis, he forms creation. So not that he organizes creation, he forms creation. Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Chaysim Mekadosh Yisrael. He says that the bracha you make is Mekadosh Yisrael. Why is it Mekadosh Yisrael? Because the Rashbam explains from all the creation that Rabbi Shalom created, he only was Mekadosh Yisrael. And therefore, on Motzei Shabbos, when we talk about the creations and what he made and the separations that he made, he was Mekadosh Yisrael. He separated them from all the nations. Now, if we say only the separations that were made in the Torah, and between the sea and the waters and the dry land, it doesn't say a Lashon of Havdalah, it doesn't say separation in the Torah. So why should this be mentioned? More answers, it's not mentioned. This should be deleted from the list. That should be deleted. If that's the case, well, if that's so, then, like we said before, is me'ena chasima. That's not considered one of the Havdolas. That's just to summarize and at the end of the middle section, before the conclusion, to say something that's similar to the bracha. So therefore, if that's not part of the list, like a sheva, you're missing one from the list. If you say that delete ben hayam l'charava and ben yom ashvili shesim masa is not part of the list, it's only mein chasima, then you don't have 7, you only have 6. Omre, the more answers, Kohanim Levim Yisrael Trei Milanino. That Enechanavi, but between Kohanim and Levim Yisrael is not considered one separation. There's a separate separation between Kohanim and Levim, and there's a separate separation between Levim and Yisraelim. Bein Levim and Yisraelim, where do we see a separation? That the Shevet of Levi was separated from Klal Yisrael. So that's one separation. Bein Kahanim and Levim, that's also a separate Havdalah, separate separation. D'chsiv b'nei Amram, Aaron and Moshe, vayibodal Aaron la'akdisha kodesh kadoshim. They were separated, Aaron and Moshe, and Aaron rather, they were separated. The Kahanim, and Aaron was separated to make him be Mekadoshim. La'akdisha kodesh kadoshim. So he's a separate, Kohanim are separate Havdalas. There's one Havdalah, Levim, from amongst Israel, and there's a separate separation, Aaron from Moshe, from the rest, from Moshe, from the Levim, whereas Aaron, that he was the Kohen that was separated from the rest of Shevet Levi. So that's considered 2 separations, and therefore you have a total of 7. Now, as we'll see going forward, and the next Talmud, these are the 7. We're not noig to say 7, we're noig to say 3, and we're not noig to make the chasima the way it was mentioned before by Yotzer Bereshis or by Seder Bereshis, but rather we make the chasima that we make Mal Ben Kodesh L'chol, as we'll see going next weiter in the Gemara.